Hi, everyone. I'm so happy to be here with Radha. And she is someone who immigrated to Portugal. I think, how long has it been?
18 months, a year and a half.
So she's been here a year and a half. So we're going to talk to her about her experience and lots of things that she's been through since she's made this move. And my first kind of obvious question for you, Radha, is what first motivated you to make the move to Portugal, to immigrate?
Okay, yeah, that's a good question. So initially, we were attracted to Portugal from a business perspective. My co-founder and I founded a business in financial services space that required a European hub, and we had tagged Portugal to be that place. And the idea of being here has changed a little bit, but yeah, from the first moment that we arrived here in Portugal, we really enjoyed sort of the pace of the lifestyle
Hmm.
here, the friendliness of the people, the food, and of course the weather. So if there was a place that we knew we had to spend some time in Europe, we wanted it to be here.
Okay, okay. So you had experience before, and all these things were positive, and it was a business hub, and there you go. All right. And then what was it like navigating how to start, what visa to go for? How did you go about doing that?
Yes. So of course, everyone starts their search online. So
Yeah.
I started online to begin to take a look at some of the visa categories and see which ones would apply to us. But then when we looked a little bit further into the actual process, we realized that it was going to be pretty lengthy and timely. And we thought, it's much better to navigate that with the help of somebody who knows sort of the system a little bit better, as well as we were worried that we might run into language issues.
Right.
So it was, from the initial sort of research online, we recognized that it would be a little bit more from a process perspective that we'd be able to undertake from a time perspective, as well as I mentioned, language. So yeah.
Okay. Okay. And thinking about the process itself, the visa process, can you tell us a little bit about the challenges and the hardships? Because I feel like um, people talk about, you know, all the positive things of immigrating and the positive things of Portugal. It's easy to talk about, but I think it's also important for people to realize that you do run into some things that may be, you know, overwhelming and anxiety causing. And
Of
so
course.
what was that like for you?
So I have to be very honest.
Please do. Yeah.
We didn't sort of meet the anxiety of the process head
Uh-huh.
on, because you guys took care of everything for us, right? You provided
It's
all the
good to hear.
checklists. We
Yeah.
just had to submit the documents. And even when we weren't, as responsive, you guys kept at us to get the stuff in. So, in terms of that, I think you guys sort of it took the weight of the stress of the process on more than we did. I'll say that the only part of the process that sat with us was the appointments with the embassies and the consulates, or the third party management of the consulate appointments. And that was sort of maybe the only place in which we sort of had to navigate
Right.
and re-navigate because we weren't getting the result that we wanted from an appointment perspective. But other than that, like understanding what was required came from you guys. Understanding, the document checklist came from you guys.
Yeah.
Knowing whether or not our documents looked good enough to submit
Hmm.
came from the opinions that you provided for us. So, you guys did a lot of buffer for that, which I'm so grateful for, because I've heard stories of other people who have navigated this process on their own without an immigration lawyer's office or intermediary. And it's been a much different, it's been a much, much different experience.
And I kind of admire how, because I was part of your process at the time, and I admire how you're tenacious and persistent in your desire at that time to move because you did run into a situation where the first visa type you chose didn't exactly go in the direction you expected it to. And even still, you opted to, okay, this didn't work. Let's switch visa types. And I mean, that's very admirable.
Oh, thank you. It didn't come without counsel, though.
Yeah.
You're right. So our business visa that I think we had initially applied in the D2
Yeah.
category, we just sort of weren't progressing where that was concerned. And to be honest, there was a point where I was really sort of flustered with the responses that were coming back, sort of giving us refusals, but very generic. We couldn't understand in what area they were coming from. And then, when we did a strategy session with Victor, yourself, and Mathieu, you guys suggested that I go forward in another category. And yeah, you supported me, provided me the same support to change trajectory in terms of aiming for the other category. And I think it took February, March, April, May, July. It took 5 months between the time that I submitted the documents to you guys and got my visa in my passport. It took 5 months. So you guys helped me to navigate that and change course when we didn't see a result coming with the D2.
Right.
Yeah, and at no cost. So I was okay with it. I appreciated that.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's on both sides. You have, I mean, of course, we helped you, and that's what we're here to do, to help people. But um, we also have clients who are very good about, okay, this didn't work. Now let's go in this direction, and efficient and understanding and getting the documentation ready. And so I think that also counts.
Oh, sure. When we were getting all the refusals with the D2, I was really frustrated with the process. And I wouldn't have thought to sort of switch courses. I was ready to abandon
Uh-huh.
the entire process altogether. But it was, the counsel that you guys gave and said, no, I think we can get a really good sort of result with the D7. Let's go ahead and try this. So I appreciated you guys taking the stressful part of that situation and sort of re-engineering it so that it became, like a positive result for me instead of an abandoned, process.
Now that you've been here, you said a year and 18 months?
A year and a half, 18 months altogether.
Okay. Whoops. Sorry, a year and a half. Tell me a little bit about like what you've been, if you have any funny anecdotes in terms of, I don't know, culture shock. Can you think of anything, or just what you've been doing? And
Yeah. So, whenever you move somewhere new, you're trying to make this new place become your home. And community is really important. And if you don't find your tribe, it will never feel like home. So I had to set out, finding a group of friends and people around me, neighbors, a local cafe that I would love, all those kinds of things that make some place feel like home. So yeah, I delved in, feet first and really sort of like treated it like a full-time job. I was fortunate when I came here that I had a break from work. So yeah, I joined all the meetup groups. Yeah, I went hiking for the first time in my life. I'd never been hiking before. Now I love hiking and I go every weekend. So you asked me about things that surprised me about Portugal. I didn't realize that the landscape here was so beautiful. Yeah, I mean, absolutely stunning, which is one of the reasons why I love the hiking.
Right.
And it's become a new hobby of mine. But Portugal it just gives you things to look at every corner that you look. It's lush, it's green, and
It's true.
some areas it reminds me of the tropics, and some areas are mountainous. It reminds me of the Canadian Rockies, and there's just so much variation in the landscape and natural beauty here. So I was surprised to discover that about Portugal.
That's true.
Yeah.
And have you had a chance to travel around the country or not?
Yeah, I've been doing little day trips and things to like within about 2 hours or so radius of Lisbon. So I've done pretty much all of the major, towns/cities around Lisbon. And yeah, they all have their one thing I discovered was each of them has a signature pastry.
Uh-huh.
Right? Each area.
Yeah.
Santarém has a signature pastry,
Yes.
the Pampilho.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I've been going sort of around, and that's the first thing I do. I find the oldest bakery that does the signature pastry, and I try it there.
You're going to be an expert at pastries and
All the
associated.
food.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, and all this. I know, like, we should do a quiz like that.
Yeah.
What pastry does this
Yeah.
belong? What town does this belong to?
Yeah.
So that's lovely, and also the history, right? Like it's such a much older society than where I'm coming from in North America and Canada, and there's so much history, as well as the people. The people in these small towns are wonderful. They're lovely. I've felt very accepted everywhere that I've gone to.
That's great.
Yeah, people are really nice, really nice. The food's great. Yeah.
Was it the first time that you made a major move like this from like
No, no. I've
No,
moved around the
because
place a
it
lot.
seems to me like this wasn't the first time. That's why I'm asking.
No, it's a bit of a there's a formula when you move,
Right, right,
so
right,
yeah.
right, right.
This is the first time though that I've made a move like this and didn't know anybody at all.
Okay, okay, okay.
In the past, when I've moved to a new country, I've known at least, 1 or 2 or
Hmm.
3 people. There's been a small sort of
Uh-huh.
landing spot that I've had in terms of, community and people. I didn't know anybody when I moved here. So that's my first time sort of foraging into, like, the brand new by myself.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's, you have to be brave. So good for you. When was the first time? What was your first big immigration move?
I, moved to and don't hold it against me, but I
No.
moved to Miami.
Hey, we're not going to judge you. Okay. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I moved I lived in Miami. I lived in South Florida for about 5 years,
Okay.
some time ago. So that was my first move out of oh, actually, no, and I moved to Jamaica, well, but I'm Jamaican. That doesn't count, does it?
What kind of?
It doesn't
Tell us a
count?
little bit
Okay.
about. So you grew up in Canada?
So I grew up in Canada. I was
Okay.
born in Jamaica and left Jamaica when I was very young.
Okay.
My mom and I, and grew up in Canada. Grew up in Toronto.
Okay.
Kept very close ties to the island, though. My mom was one of 9 kids, and
Oh,
she
wow.
was the only one that migrated.
Mhm.
So we went back to Jamaica every year for
Okay.
2 or 3 months, so that she it was her mecca,
Mhm, mhm.
and it gave us an opportunity to be around family and things like that. So we were there pretty often.
Okay.
And then in my adulthood, I moved to Jamaica for a few years to spend time with my grandparents as they aged.
Mhm.
So I guess that would have been my first sort of move outside of
Right.
the country that I grew up in, outside of Toronto. But it felt familiar, and I had so many
Yeah.
people there, and
It had ties.
yeah,
You were
it
going
wasn't a
every
foreign
year.
place at all.
Okay. Yeah,
Exactly,
yeah, yeah.
exactly. Then Florida, I moved to Florida. I think in my mid 20s, I was there for about 5 years. Didn't love Florida. Um, then I was living in Dubai for about a year.
Oh, wow.
When I
Okay.
started the process of coming here, I was living in Dubai.
I remember.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, yeah.
So right now, if I ask you, Radha, where is home? Do you always feel like Toronto is the reference for home? Or do you feel, have you moved around so much that, okay, Toronto is where I grew up, but I feel like from all these places, what is that like for you?
Oh, that's an interesting question. That's actually really interesting. I think because my mom is in Toronto, that will always so
No,
wherever she is always feels like home.
makes sense.
But I will say to you that I was in Toronto for the holidays. So I left Lisbon and all my friends and
Hmm.
all of the plans that everyone was making for Christmas, the friend Christmas and stuff. I never thought that I would miss Lisbon when
Right.
I was away, but I did.
Oh,
Yeah, when I was in Toronto with my family and stuff, and after the holidays passed, I was really looking forward to coming back. So, and I thought, and when I remember feeling a little melancholy about being away over the holidays, and I caught myself, and I was like, oh, what does that mean? Does Lisbon now feel like home?
right.
And I think that's what's happening. When you put your feet down and you begin to, make the friends, which I've been fortunate to be able to find some wonderful people
Right.
and create really, lovely friendships with, very supportive, being somewhere where you're new, you don't have a lot of family and stuff. It's always wonderful to have people that sort of understand that perspective as well as the Portuguese friends that I have in the Portuguese community that have taught me so much about Portugal and, steered me in the right direction in terms of how to navigate things as well
Right.
as, restaurant recommendations. I'm always talking about food. So yeah, I felt melancholic about not being here over the holidays and was looking forward to coming back. So I don't know. That's such a question.
That's a really good
It's
sign.
like, yeah.
You don't have to answer it like, I got the sense of what you're saying. So, what are your plans for, or if you don't have plans, maybe you live day by day, but for the future, I mean, do you want to stay in Lisbon? Do you want to live somewhere else in Portugal? You don't know. Let's see what happens. Do you have any kind of
Yeah, I think I'll continue to have a home base here in Lisbon, but I also think being having a home base here gives you a really unique opportunity to explore not only other cities in
yeah?
Portugal, because I'd love to come back and spend some time in Porto, which was sort of where the love affair with Portugal began,
Uh huh.
but also other nearby European cities and
Hmm.
towns, right? We're so close to the border of Spain,
Yes.
and just like hops over from other, fantastic cities and towns. So being here, the proximity to all of that really gives you that unique opportunity to be able to, spend,
Yeah.
6 months or so in another town, checking it out,
Yeah.
or in another country, sort of in the region, checking it out.
Yeah.
So I think the future is that that's what I'll do. I'll maybe do 6 months outside of Lisbon and have Lisbon as the home base to come back to.
Right.
But I'm not going to give Lisbon up.
Yeah. Yeah. It's too nice here.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
it's beginning to feel like mine. So
That's good, because I remember we met right for a celebration and events. That was when was that? It was like September,
I think so. Yeah,
and I feel like talking to you today that you're more. It feels like you're more. I don't know,
connected.
connected.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
it feels that way for me too. Yeah.
Good. I'm really happy to hear that. If you had to give advice to someone who's just beginning to think about immigrating to Portugal,
Mhm.
what would you tell them?
I would tell them, I would tell them to navigate the process, um, through an intermediary. And of course, I would recommend you guys. I will say that one of the lessons that I've learned being here is that, you as a visitor, you'll fall in love with the pace, sort of the relaxed pace that
Yeah.
a place like Portugal gives you in relation to our North American sort of pace of life.
Yes.
But that extends to all aspects of Portuguese life. And you don't recognize, until you sort of on ground here that that means, navigating, the tax bureau as well as, the healthcare system and other things. It does work on that sort of relaxed pace as well.
Right.
Wherever I can get an intermediary involved to help me navigate that stuff, I do because I recognize that I haven't quite slowed my own pace down yet to be comfortable with the sort of pace of the way things operate here. So instead of frustrating myself,
Right.
I would definitely get intermediaries involved. And when I say that, I mean, you guys shielded me from all that because the experience with you was so efficient,
Well, thank you.
right? I mean, I don't ever remember sending an email to you guys and not having a response at least within 24 hours. More often than not, it was much more quickly. And that's not the sort of service expectation that you can have throughout Portugal. So, in some ways you kind of tricked me. You kind
Yes. We
of
spoiled
sent
you.
me exactly. You
Yeah, we
set me up with
spoiled
the
you. Yeah.
expectation. I'm so grateful for that though. But yeah, you learn is when you come here that that's not necessarily the
Yeah.
norm. It's different. It's
Yeah. That's really very like when you're aware that you're coming from a culture where the pace is, you know,
yeah,
and you can say, I understand it's going to be slower, but actually you don't really understand until you're living there.
yeah, yeah,
And that's really interesting that you choose to have somebody to help you because you know that maybe you're not going to be able to navigate that on your
yeah.
own.
It's going to be a blood pressure
Yeah,
situation. Yeah.
yeah. So might as well just get help.
But I
Yeah.
will say that, in the context of navigating, Viv Europe helping me navigate being here, I mean, the process through the process, I got a bank account, I got my NIF number, I got my NISS. There was very little for me to actually have to navigate
Now,
when I got on ground. I mean, I think the only thing that I have to do is file my taxes,
right.
right? Other than that, everything was really set up from the process that we engaged in order to get me here. So that was also like a really big relief as well when I realized other people had to do all of these things
Right.
separate and apart. They had to go on a mission to get their NIF.
Yes.
Also, the whole process of getting the NISS number and things. So I was also grateful that I didn't have to do any of those things. Our
Mhm.
process covered them all.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you so much for sharing all of this valuable information. And yes,
It's a
thanks so much.
pleasure.
All right.
Trust